Hi, my name is Paula, and you're listening to the Let's Talk Change podcast. Hi everyone, welcome to the 5th episode of Let's Talk Change podcast. I am Paula, as you probably know, and today I talk with Yvonne, and she's the founder of Climate Journal Project. We talked about climate anxiety and the different ways in which we can overcome climate anxiety. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Hi everyone, I'm here today with Yvonne, and she's the founder of Climate Journal Project.
Thank you so much, Paula, for having me on.
You're welcome. I'm super excited to have you. So can you tell me something about yourself and the project? I would love to hear more about it.
Yes. Wow. That's really nice to hear. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes. So my name is Yvonne. I am from Southern California originally, but I moved to New York City to pursue my master's in food studies. And that's an intersection between food insecurity and food waste. And the reason I decided to go and take that route is because I really care about social and environmental impact. And when the pandemic happened, that was actually when I was supposed to roll out a few of my research projects with helping restaurants reduce their food waste. But as we all know, restaurants closed, everything was uncertain. A lot of sustainability initiatives were being paused or, canceled. And so I had to move back to California, which, is not entirely a bad decision, but I moved back to be with my parents, and I just felt like my momentum towards environmental impact was slowing down. And I felt like I was unable to contribute as much as I typically would.
Right.
Yeah. And being back at my parents' house and in my childhood bedroom, I was surrounded by old diaries and old notebooks, and I realized I'm like, I should probably pick one of these up and kind of express and release how I'm feeling. And so that was the start of my personal practice to dedicate my yoga and my journal practice to the environment. So it was a personal practice. And then I started to invite friends and colleagues, and they really enjoyed it, and they were feeling the same type of anxiety and grief that I was. And so I kind of formalized it, turned it into a newsletter, and the newsletter, as soon as we started, 2 weeks after I started the newsletter, we grew to 200 people that were journaling with me.
That's amazing.
Thank you. At first, I was just sending people prompts via email every day. But now we actually have a journal book that's in progress that we'll be sending out or for delivery in April of 2021. So that's kind of the story and background of the Climate Journal Project. At the end of the day, I really want it to represent gratitude, because I feel that although there's an urgency, it doesn't have to be this elaborate thing. It sometimes just starts with gratitude for our planet and each other. And if we have that, we can better serve, social and environmental impact, because all of that will follow. If we appreciate the planet and the world around us, the people we talk to, the projects we work on, everything else we do will follow this climate advocacy pattern.
Yeah, I love that. And what would you like to achieve with Climate Journal Project? What's your mission?
That's a great question. So our hope is that we can reduce stress and anxiety around the climate crisis by, overcoming it with gratitude. And so our hope is to support them through journal prompts and reflection, but also through the community that we create at Climate Journal Project. And, it's really easy to be angry about the climate crisis because it's not a problem that can be fixed overnight. And so our hope is to take an optimistic approach to climate change and a productive approach. So it's okay to hold space for your anger and your grief, but we also don't want people to stay there. We want people to feel like they can do something about it and be part of the movement.
That's amazing. I honestly love the initiative. I think it's just I just never seen an initiative like this before. And I love that. Like, I honestly just recently learned about like the term, I guess, climate anxiety. And I feel like it's a lot of people experience climate anxiety, but like don't really know about the term and don't really realize this. So, what is the link between climate crisis and anxiety? Would you like explain more? What is it?
Absolutely. So, climate anxiety is very different for everyone. Sometimes climate anxiety stems from the fact that you feel like you can't do anything about it. So, you have all of this knowledge and information about what's going on in the climate crisis, but you feel it's kind of like a climate change paralysis where you're like, okay, this problem is going on out there, but I don't have the tools and I don't know what to do about it. And it causes this overwhelming feeling of, is what I'm doing enough? Is reducing my plastic enough? So there's that. Another piece of, climate anxiety is, I guess, anger towards each other, where, us versus corporations or us versus fossil fuel industry. And that causes a lot of anxiety because, we're humans. I think that when we place blame on something else, it just kind of spirals and it becomes this big blob of anger. And so that's another piece of climate anxiety. And another one is just the sense of loss of nature. So when you find out that something has gone extinct or a river has evaporated or a piece of landscape has been necessarily functioning the way that it is. Yeah, I think that's another piece of anxiety and grief because you're feeling like we lost a piece of something beautiful.
Right.
And so, yeah, and so when you deal with different anxieties, or when you experience different types of anxieties, then you also deal with it differently. And our hope is to be able to provide a toolkit that, like, this is how you can handle it because climate anxiety also lingers. So for someone that is new to it, might not even know that they've experienced climate anxiety before.
Yeah, that's true. And how can we overcome climate anxiety? What can we do to actually feel better?
That's a good question. One of the things that we turn to at Climate Journal Project is the journaling practice. Outside of climate anxiety, the journal practice has been recommended by therapists and, wellness coaches all over the world. And the reason why journaling is such an important, task and practice is because pen to paper is really powerful. First of all, we're living in a world that still has, COVID-19 floating. And so we're so plugged into our digital devices that if we turn to pen and paper, it actually allows us to unplug from social media, our phones, our laptops, and you're just kind of left with your thoughts and you're in a non-judgmental space when it's just you and paper. And so it allows you to release a lot of the anger that you have, but it also allows you to deconstruct how you feel about it and also what you want to do about it, allowing you to hopefully receive some clarity from all of these feelings and problems that you're facing. And so journaling is one way that we can deal with climate anxiety. And another is just by surrounding yourself with people that are knowledgeable about solutions. Environmental sustainability has a lot of different pathways. So there is clean air, clean water, clean oceans. And if we try to dip our toes in all of them, that's when it gets really, really hectic. And so my recommendation is, surround yourself with people that are solution oriented and then pick your lane to start and then focus there and then kind of move your way around so that you don't feel like nothing is being done. When you're surrounded by people that are doing a bunch of things in different fields, you're like, wow, okay, I feel a little bit better about this. There's still a lot of improvement, but I can still, I feel better.
Yes, that's so true. And I feel like a lot of people just don't find the motivation to actually start practicing self-care. As, for example, me, when I have free time, I just go on my phone, which is not healthy, but that's what I do. So do you have any tips on how can I and others motivate ourselves to actually start.
Thanks for asking that. I think that that's probably the hardest part. I
Yeah.
think so. I guess the best way that when I talk to folks and they're like, I don't know how to journal, I can't start, or it's tough. I'm like, okay, well, how did you start meeting with people online, right? Or like, if you want to start something, you typically will add it to your calendar, or you will incorporate it into your routine. And I would say for me, I'm a very, I like things organized. I like things written down. So for me, the way I got started was I just put it in my calendar, 30 minutes before the workday started. I scheduled journaling for 30 minutes. And that helped me. But for other folks, honestly, it's either, I think my favorite way to journal is having it be the first thing I do in the morning. And so before I kind of created boundaries for myself. So if it's not a calendar invite to yourself, then maybe it's like a secret rule that you hold within yourself. And you're like, you know what? Before I look at my phone today, I am going to journal for 15 minutes. And it doesn't even have to be that long. It could be 5 minutes. It could be 10 minutes. But what I see a lot is people start with 5 minutes and they as soon as they get the ball rolling, they're like, wow, that turned into a 15-minute therapy session almost for myself. And so I would say, just try and fit it in your routine the best you can, and just start with something really minimal. 5 minutes. You don't even need a prompt. You don't even need a proper notebook. If it's a sheet of paper, then that's okay. But just start, because I think that the benefits of journaling will really help a lot of people kind of overcome a lot of things. And even if it's not about climate anxiety, if it's about, how you're feeling stressed about school or anything like that, I think it's a good place to release. And then you can look back at it later and be like, oh, I was stressed about that this morning, but it turns out it wasn't that big of a deal. And you'll feel better. So yeah, I hope that's good advice.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I will definitely try again to journal, because I just couldn't motivate myself in the morning, or I just didn't know what to write down. So I also wanted to ask you about your planner, because as you said before, and I also saw on Instagram that you guys have a planner, and I wanted to ask if there will be maybe a digital version available, because it's not the most sustainable for me to order it from California and get it to Europe, right? So maybe will there be a digital version which people from further away could use?
Yeah. To answer the first part that you mentioned, yes, it's really difficult to get started, and I don't want to discount that, but I also think it's fun to, and one thing that we're offering is we're going to be offering journaling circles. And so if you need a little bit of a nudge, or if you're interested in, you don't know what to write about, we will provide a journal prompt, and we'll also provide, you'll be able to meet other people who are also journaling. And then
I
the
love
second
that.
part, yeah, thank you. Just because I know that it's difficult for folks. And sometimes the community aspect it's a comfortable space for them. To answer your second question about the planner, so yeah, the digital journals are going to be available. They were available when we were on our Kickstarter. But we're going to put it on our website right before Earth Month so that folks can journal with us. And yeah, it's basically, a prompt. Each journal will have 26 prompts. So it's about prompts for half the year. And then, and then people can kind of follow along, and hopefully we'll have, the journal circles in line by then. So then folks can join from all over the world too, in case you wanted to.
Well, I love that. I love the idea of the journal circle, because I feel like during the pandemic, we need a sense of community, just because we've been so isolated for so long. So that definitely will help. And I just love the idea. So is there anything else that you would like to add about the project?
I think, thank you. Yeah, I think that at the end of the day, the project's goal is to really help folks understand that the you can only be your biggest advocate and your best advocate and leader in the climate space if you are taking care of yourself, because you are also part of the planet. And I want people to remember that. I want people to remember that, just as much as we're focusing on helping reduce plastic, you're also part of what we're protecting. And so, and kind of like helping uplift. And so I want folks to know that the Climate Journal Project, it started out as a personal thing, but it's kind of grown into something that's beautiful, and everyone is welcome to it, regardless of where you are in the world, and regardless of how much journaling experience you have. You don't even have to start with that. So yeah, I just want to end on that note where it's like, the Climate Journal Project is just excited to have folks be more in tune with their purpose, and hopefully we can help with that.
I love that. Thank you so much for deciding to do this episode with me. I am super excited to see more of what you guys come up. And yeah, I just basically love the project. I love it. So
thank you.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I guess we also have events that are coming out, so we'd like to invite folks to that too. And so at the end of the month of March, March 24th, which is it's at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Might be really late for you guys, but we'll record it and we can send it out. But we have an event with Eco Athletes, and that event is basically a collaboration of athletes that are climate leaders. Athletes have experienced a lot of anxiety, a lot of disappointment. They're always expected to be perfect. And so they're going to talk about that anxiety and how that kind of has translated, or how that has converted into anxieties around being climate leaders, because a lot of folks look at them in the public and they only view them as athletes, and that's kind of their only identity. But they're people too. They care about the planet too. And so they'll talk about, how they've overcome a lot of adversity, how they have overcome a lot of disappointment. And similarly to climate leaders, we're all kind of expected to be perfect and not disappoint, this like perfect zero waste identity. And so, yeah, March 24th, we're going to be talking about a lot of that. And then for April, it's Earth Month. We're doing a huge journaling campaign that everyone is invited to. So I think it's going to be every week where we have a journal prompt and we have journal circles. And then I guess looking forward, May is Mental Health Awareness Month and June is World Oceans Day. So we're going to have other journal prompts and other journals being released in the next few months.
I love that. I will definitely check it out, and everything will be in the description if you would like to check out everything. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. This was a great interview. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed. Everything, as always, will be in the description of the podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, or follow, and stay tuned for more episodes. See you next time. Bye.